بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Kashful Murad in this last Jummah of the month of Ramadan. And right at the beginning, I would like to send our salutations and our du'as to the souls of all ulama, especially Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi and Allam Hilli Rahmatullah alayh. We are sitting on their table of knowledge and benefiting from their knowledge, so we should acknowledge that. As you remember, we were talking about the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the last point was about Allah having qaraz or purpose for everything he does, because some people thought if we say he has qaraz or purpose, he does things for an end, it means that he would be in need. But we said no, his qaraz is there, but it's not to benefit himself, it's to benefit others, the recipients. And if you say his actions have no qaraz, no purpose, then it would conflict with his wisdom. Now we start inshallah al-mas'ala al-khamisah, the fifth problem here. في أنه تعالى يريد الطاعات ويكره المعاصي. This is about the fact that Allah has will for acts of obedience. He wants them and he dislikes acts of disobedience. The question is here, if you want to go to the core of the controversy, the question is here. If Allah says, for example, Aqimus Salah, and there are people like kuffar or even some sinful, Muslims, they don't say prayer. So has Allah wanted from them also to pray, or he didn't want? Was his will for them also or not? Ash'ari thought no, he didn't have such a will, such an irada that they should also say the prayers. Otherwise they would have said their prayers. They could not have disobeyed. And for them, whatever Allah wants, that happens. But then the question is, if Allah didn't want them to say prayer, why then he issues commands and prohibitions which are general for everyone? And also, why he should not ask them to pray? If prayer is such a good thing, why he should not ask them to pray? Inshallah, we will explain that the main issue is that they have not distinguished between al-irada al-takwiniya and al-irada al-tashri'iyya. This is the main problem. If they had distinguished between these two, they could have understood that Allah's generative will never be disobeyed, but Allah's legislative will is something that he wants, but he leaves it to us to do it with our free will. If we don't do it, it doesn't mean that he didn't want. Still he wanted. So let's see what Khaja and Allama say. قال late Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi said, وَإِرَادَةُ الْقَبِيهِ قَبِيحَةٌ. To want something which is qabih makes this irada also qabih. If you say that Allah has will for sins that people do, then this will of Allah would be qabih. willing immoral things is an immoral will. Also, tarku iradatil hasan. Iradatul ghabi is bad. Tarku iradatil hasan. Not to want good things is also bad. Why Allah should not want good thing from them? Why, for example, inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. Why Allah shouldn't want adl and ihsan from them? Walil amri wan nahy. And also because there is amr and nahy. So if he asks to do something or asks not to do, it shows that he wants what he commanded and he doesn't want what he didn't command. Some versions, like the version which is on the screen, has wal amr wal nahy, which means tarkul amr wal nahy, means this is qabih, tarkul amr wal nahy. But according to the version that Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amoli has corrected, and it's also easier to understand, is lil amr wal nahy, means in addition to that previous reason, also because the fact that he has commanded and because he has prohibited, these two also show that he has irada for acts of obedience for everyone, and he doesn't like acts of sins and disobedience from everyone. We will explain this more. Let's go to the commentary. أقول مذهب المعتزلة أن الله تعالى يريد الطاعات من المؤمن والكافر. The opinion, the idea of the Mu'tazilites is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, means he wants, ta'at, acts of obedience, min al-mu'min wal-kafir, from both believers and non-believers. And also sawa'un waqa'at aw la, whether they do it or not. It's not that if he has irada, they must definitely do it, because they can disobey. Yes, as I said, if it is iradi takwini, they will do it, but here we are talking about iradi tashri'i. So there is no problem to say how Allah wanted something and still it didn't happen. You say, did he want it with iradi takwini or iradi tashri? If iradi takwini, it certainly happens, but iradi tashri, no problem. Iradi tashri means that he wants it, but he says you should do it freely, with your free will. You may do it, you may not do it. سواء وقعت أو لا. ويكره المعاصي. Also, not only he يريد الطاعات, he يكره المعاصي, he dislikes sins. سواء وقعت أو لا, whether they happen or not. You cannot say if they didn't happen means Allah disliked them, therefore didn't happen. But if they happened, you say Allah didn't dislike them, because the Ash'arites say like this. They say if they happen means Allah didn't have any problem with them. But we say Allah didn't like them, but still they happened because we have free will. So this is the idea of the Mu'tazilites. Then we have opposite to their idea. قالت الأشاعرة كل ما هو واقع فهو مراد. According to them, we have to see what happens. Whatever happens is murad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, means Allah has wanted that. His will that has belonged to that. Whatever happens, sins happens, obedience happens, all are according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anything didn't happen, whether sins or obedience, means Allah didn't want it. كل ما هو واقع فهو مراد سواء كان طاعة أو معصية. والدليل على ما ذهب إليه المعتزلة وجهان. The proof for what the Mu'tazilites have said, and here we agree the idea of the Mu'tazilites, are two. We mention here two proofs. Number one, أنه تعالى حكيم لا يفعل القبيح على ما تقدم. In the past we said that he is Hakim and he would not do anything which is qabih. فكما أن فعل القبيح قبيح فكذا إرادته قبيحة. In the same way that doing something bad is bad, wanting something bad is also bad. How can you say whatever has happened was wanted by him, was murad for him? All these acts of mischief in the world or corruption, shedding blood, how can you say they are murad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وكما أن ترك الحسن قبيح فكذا إرادة تركه. If you don't do something good, it's bad. And if you don't also want it, it is bad. I should do ihsan and I should also have irada of ihsan. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have irada for good things, is also a problem. So, this is the first argument. The second, أنه تعالى أمر بالطاعات ونهى عن المعاصي. We said للأمر والنهي. This is the second argument. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded to bring acts of obedience. Salat, zakat, saliyya rahim, all these things. وَنَهَى عَنِ الْمَعَاصِي. And he has prohibited to do acts of sins. وَالْحَكِيمُ إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُ بِمَا يُرِيدُهُ لَا بِمَا يَكْرُهُ. Hakim, a wise person, can command something that he doesn't like. Can he command something that he dislikes? You say whatever happens is wanted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah said, be just, people do zulm. You say zulm was wanted by Allah. When he said be just, he didn't want it. Can I command and then I don't want it? If I, as a, for example, human being who is rational, cannot do this, how can Allah do this? So, أنه تعالى أمر بالطاعات ونهى عن المعاصي. We know that he has made some commands to do acts of obedience. He has also prohibited sins. والحكيم إنما يأمر بما يريده لا بما يكرهه. Hakim would command only what he wants, not what he dislikes. On the other hand, ينهى عما يكرهه لا عما يريده. He would prohibit something that he doesn't like. So if he said don't do, for example, mischief, and mischief happens, you say mischief was wanted. So why he prohibited something that he didn't mind? فَلَوْ كَانَتِ الطَّاعَةُ مِنَ الْكَافِرِ مَكْرُوهَةً لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى لَمَا أَمَرَ بِهَا. If ta'ah from kafir was disliked by Allah, he wouldn't have asked them. I hope it is clear why we say this. Because according to the Ash'arites, whatever happens is murad. Kafir doesn't bring acts of obedience. So it means that this situation of kafir is murad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ta'ah was not murad. This is why we make this point. We say if ta'ah from kafir, if obedience from kafir was disliked by Allah, he would not have commanded. And we know Allah's commands are general. وَلَوْ كَانَتَ الْمَعْصِيَةُ مُرَادَةً لِلَّهِ. Or on the other hand, if ma'asiyah, because ma'asiyah is happening, if ma'asiyah is what he wanted, because you say كُلُّ مَا هُوَ وَاقِفَ فَهُوَ مُرَادٌ, then why he prohibited that? لَمَا نَهَى عَنْهُ. He would not have prohibited. وَكَانَ الْكَافِرُ مُطِيعًا بِكُفْرِ. In that case, if he didn't want ta'ah from kafir, means he wanted kufr from kafir. So kafir is muti, because he's doing what Allah wanted. كَانَ الْكَافِرُ مُطِيعًا بِكُفْرِهِ وَعَدَمِ إِيمَانِهِ لأنه فعل ما أراده الله تعالى منه وهو المعصية وامتنع عما كرهه. You say Allah didn't want ta'ah, so it means he's also not doing what Allah didn't want. So there will be no blame on a person who is deliberately and or without bothering about Allah's will, he just disregards them. You say because he didn't do it, it means that it was not wanted. If it was not wanted, so he didn't do anything wrong. Now, after bringing these two arguments, Khwaja wants to refute very briefly their counter arguments. قال وبعض الأفعال مستندة إلينا والمغلوبية غير لازمة والعلم تابع. In this less than one line, he answers to three arguments by the Ash'arites. In just less than a line. بعض الأفعال مستندة إلينا. This is answer to one argument. المغلوبية غير لازمة is answer to the second argument. العلم تابع is answer to the third argument. Allama says, أقول لما فرغ من الاستدلال شرع في إبطال حجج الخصم. When he finished with argument, means he established his point, he proved his point. Now he started with refuting the arguments of the opponents. And there are three arguments, and he answers all the three. Number one, إن الله تعالى or Allah Ta'ala فاعل لكل موجود. Ash'arites say, you don't disagree that Allah is the one who does everything. But then they want to argue from this a point which is controversial. So you believe in Tawhid Af'ali, everything is an act of God. Okay, then what do they want to reach? What conclusion? فَتَكُونُ الْقَبَائِحُ مُسْتَنَدَةٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِرَادَتِهِ. So then all the bad actions are also attributed to him because of his irada. You cannot say, I am explaining their point of view. According to them, you cannot say this person who is doing mischief, is shedding blood, is doing zulm, is, breaking his promises, is telling lies, deceiving people. You cannot say these actions are nothing, have nothing to do with God and are not created by God. He does everything. Everything is an act of God. So all these actions must be attributed to him. Wal jawab. The answer is what we will explain. Actually, the next problem, al-mas'alatu sadisa, is about this issue that we will expand on this. That it is true that Allah is the giver of existence. He is the creator. He is mujad, the one who brings to existence. Everything which comes to existence has come with Allah's will and Allah's act of initiation. But this doesn't mean that we have no role. Our voluntary actions are also attributed to us. And it is after we choose how to use and exercise our free will that actions finalize. If you do good with your free will, that is wanted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you do a bad thing with your free will, that is also wanted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his iradiyya takwini. Means his iradiyya takwini has left it to you to choose. Whether you go to the right or left, he has let you to do this. And in both cases, existence, power come from him. So, الجواب ما يأتي من كون بعض الأفعال مستندة إلينا. Some of the actions, not everything that we do. For example, some of the things are not voluntary. our hair grows, we become, for example, fat, for example, or we lose weight, become thin. These are things that many times have nothing to do with us, or at least not directly. We are talking about certain actions that are morally questioned, and we have to be answerable, those which have free will involved. So الجواب ما يأتي من كون بعض الأفعال مستندة إلينا. Some of the actions are attributed to us. Allah is mujad, but at the same time they are attributed to us. There are actions. This will be talked more about it, we'll talk about it more, inshallah, in the next problem. 2. إن الله تعالى لو أراد من الكافر الطاعة والكافر أراد المعصية. Asharites say that you say Allah wanted ta'ah from everyone, including kuffar. So Allah wanted ta'ah from him, he wanted ma'siyah, and then he did ma'siyah. It means that Allah has become maghloob. His will has defeated Allah's will. Allah has become overpowered by this person. This is what Ash'arites say. إن الله تعالى لو أراد من الكافر الطاعة والكافر أراد المعصية وكان الواقع مراد الكافر. Allah wanted ta'ah, he wanted ma'siyah, and what has happened actually is what he wanted, means ma'siyah. لازم أن يكون الله تعالى مغلوبا. This would imply that Allah is defeated. إذ من يقع مراده من المريدين هو الغالب. Because who is ghalib? Who is victorious? The one whose will happens. So you say this kafir wanted ma'siyah and this happened. So it means Allah's will is undershadowed and Allah is defeated. Na'udhu billah. What is our answer? Al-jawab أن هذا غير اللازم. No. What you said would not be implied. لأن الله تعالى إنما يريد الطاعة من العبد على سبيل الاختيار. Allah wanted him to obey voluntarily. Therefore, you cannot say Allah was defeated because his will didn't happen. He didn't have a will that he should do it anyway. No. He wanted him to do it voluntarily. Still, he wants him to do it voluntarily. If Allah really wanted to stop him and he was able to run away from Allah's will and in a corner of the world secretly do against his will, that was, yes, a problem. لأن الله تعالى إنما يريد الطاعة من العبد على سبيل الاختيار وهو أنما يتحقق بإرادة المكلف. What Allah wants is that he should do it with his will, and this can only happen if he chooses. ولو أراد الله تعالى إيقاء الطاعة من الكافر مطلقا. Had Allah wanted that this act of obedience come from kafir, happen from kafir in all circumstances, سواء كانت عن اختيار أو إجبار, whether he wants it or not, this must happen, طوعا أو كرها, لوقعت, then definitely would have happened. So Allah is not defeated. He left him to choose. Yes, you can say the will of Allah is disobeyed. Yes, of course. This is actually the meaning of free will. He has given us free will that we make a responsible choice. We may obey, we may disobey. He lets us to disobey him, but he doesn't force us to obey him. And of course we will see the consequences of our decisions. 3. قالوا كل ما علم الله تعالى وقوعه وجب وما علم عدمه امتنع. Whatever Allah knows that it's happened, it must happen. Whatever he knows that would not happen, it's impossible to happen. So they want to say Allah knew in advance that this kafir is not going to obey. So it means that it was impossible for him to obey because Allah knew that. And the answer is, as we have said before, knowledge of Allah or any knowledge would not change the situation of ma'loom. It's not that because Allah knows what He is going to do, He has to do it. No, actually, because He's going to do in certain way, Allah knows that He's going to do it in certain way. The time of knowledge can be before, like you can predict something. As I always say, for example, you have a student and he's hardworking, he's intelligent. You can foresee his, good results in the end of the term. But it's not that because you knew he got a good result, then another person comes and say, if you had known the same thing about me, I would also have got good results. The teacher says, my knowledge was based on the facts that you were responsible for creating those facts. How much you work, how much you do your homework, etc. قالوا كل ما علم الله تعالى وقوعه وجب. Whatever Allah knows that it's going to happen must become necessary, means necessarily must happen. وما علم عدمه, and whatever He knows that it's not going to happen, امتنع, becomes مستحيل, becomes impossible. فإذا علم عدم وقوع الطاعة من الكافر, if Allah knows that obedience is not going to happen from kafir, استحال إرادتها من, then it's impossible that Allah asked him to do this. If He knows that he is not going to do it, so it's impossible. How can Allah ask him to do something impossible? So they are using knowledge of Allah against the will of Allah. وَإِلَّا لَكَانَ مُرِيدًا لَمَا يَمْتَنِعُ وُجُودُهُ. If he wanted to ask him to do something that he knows that he is not going to do, therefore it's impossible, so it means that his will, his irada is for muhal. Can you ask people to do something muhal? Can you ask people to do 2 + 2 = 5? وَالْجَوَابُ أَنَّ الْعِلْمَ تَابِعٌ. The answer is that knowledge is a parameter which follows ma'loom. Is subordinate. Maybe you can translate as subordinate. Knowledge is subordinate. لا يؤثر في إمكان الفعل. This type of knowledge that we are talking has no influence on the possibility of the action. وقد مر تقرير ذلك. When we discussed about knowledge, we mentioned this, and we said people should not use this as a kind of argument for jabr, and say because Allah knew that what I am going to do, I have to do it, I have no choice, you cannot blame me, because He knew it. No, He knew it because He knew what you are going to decide, what you are going to freely choose. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, 5th problem finished. Now we go to a very important discussion, and you must have heard the idea of kasb, nazariyatul kasb, the theory of acquisition by the Ash'arites. We are going to the core of the issue of Jabr Ikhtiyar. How much our actions are attributed to us, how much they are attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is our role? The Ash'arites say everything is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the maximum is that He does them in us. We are mawdu, we are mahal, we are subject or a space or place in which Allah does what He wants. We have no role. Some people have used this example. They say our actions are like us becoming fat. When you put on some extra weight, what is your role? Did you want it? Many times no. many times you actually didn't want maybe to put on extra weight. Of course, some people love to have extra weight, but if something that you didn't want. So this is something that has happened in you. You can say, I increased weight. You can say, this is me, not you, not someone else. But did I really want this? So if I do good or bad, according to Ash'arites, it's because they have happened in me. But I have no control over them. Allah does them. They call this Nadariyatul Kasb, because the Quran says, Laha ma kasabat wa alayha ma iktasabat. Or other places, we talk about people being responsible and benefiting or harming themselves by what they acquire. They mean by acquiring or acquisition just that you are the subject. Allah works in you, but it's His work, not yours. This is the idea of the Ash'arites. As you see, this is very dangerous idea, because then it means that there is no point in reward, in punishment, in blaming, in praising, in educating, in preaching, in sending prophets. All of them become absurd if it is only His action and we have no role. So why we should talk to people, do this, don't do that. Al-mas'alatu as-sadisa fi anna fa'ilun. The sixth problem about the fact that we are fa'il, means we are doers. So we have a role. Ash'ari say we are not fa'il. We just do iktisab. قال, late Khaja said, وَالضَّرُورَةُ قَاضِيَةٌ بِاسْتِنَادِ أَفْعَالِنَا إِلَيْنَا. It is self-evident that our actions are attributed to us. These are our actions. أقول, Allah rahmatullah alayhi says, اختلف الأقلاء هنا. Uqala are different. First of all, it's a respectful way of saying everyone is aqil here, and also maybe a reference to the fact that this is not only about Muslims. This issue actually has a much wider presence. You can find it among Christians and Muslims, even maybe secular people to some extent have this discussion about what is human role, what is the role of external factors, etc. فَالَّذِي ذَهَبَ إِلَيْهِ الْمُعْتَزِلَةِ. What Mu'tazilates have chosen is this: أَنَّ الْعَبْدَ فَاعِلٌ لَأَفْعَالِ نَفْسِهِ. The servant of Allah does his own actions, therefore he is responsible for it. وَاخْتَلَفُوا. But then they themselves have differed. فَقَالَ أَبُو الْحُسَيْنِ. One of them, Abu al-Hussein, says, إِنَّ الْعِلْمَ بِذَلِكَ ضَرُورِيٌّ. He says, knowing that we have role and these are our actions is badihi, is daruri, means it is self-evident. You don't need to argue for it. وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ الَّذِي ذَهَبَ إِلَيْهِ الْمُصَنِّفِ. Allah Mahalli says this is right, and this is what the author Khaja Nasir ad-Din Tusi also have accepted. This is his idea also, and this is why he said الضرورة قاضية باستناد أفعالنا إلينا, means it is badihi, it's necessary in the sense of it's self-evident. وقال آخرون إنه استدلالي. But some other Mu'tazila say no, it's not badihi, it's something that needs istidlal, reasoning. You have to argue for it. وَأَمَّا Jahm ibn Safwan. Now we go to non-Mu'tazilites. Jahm ibn Safwan says, إن الله تعالى هو الموجد لأفعال العباد وإضافتها إليهم على سبيل المجاز. He says Allah creates the actions of the servants, and attributing those actions to them is metaphoric. It's not really their actions. It's majaz. No role for people. فَإِذَا قِيلَ فُلَانٌ صَلَّى وَصَامَ, when they say someone said his prayer or fasted, كَانَ بِمَنْزِلَةِ قَوْلِنَا طَالَ وَسَمِنَ. It's like saying he has become taller or he has become fat. Samin with sin means fat. La yusminu wa la yughni min ju. La yusminu means doesn't make fat, doesn't let flesh grow. وقال ضرار بن عامر والنجار وحفص الفارد وأبو الحسن الأشعري. These people have another idea. They don't say it's majaz. They believe in nazariyatul kasb, theory of acquisition. إن الله تعالى هو المحدث لها. Allah creates these actions, but والعبد مكتسب, but he is muktasib, because the Quran has used the term اكتساب. لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت لكل نفس ما اكتسبت مثلا, for example. So they cannot ignore, but they try to define iktisab in the way that it doesn't really leave any role for human beings. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لِقُدْرَةِ الْعَبْدِ أَثَرًا فِي الْفِعْلِ. They say the power of servant has no influence, no effect on the action. بل القدرة والمقدور واقعان بقدرة الله. The power belongs to Allah, and what power belongs to that action also belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هذا الاقتران هو الكسب. In this nearness to us, it's happening in me, not in you. This is just enough to say that this is my kasb. I did this. I acquired this. Now, then they have lots of discussions when they want to articulate kasb, because they wanted to use a term in the Quran, and now how do they interpret it? Again, they have lots of opinions. Qadi, it seems he's referring to one of the Ash'arites, not Qadi Abdul Jabbar al-Mu'tazili. No, this is one of the Ash'arites, maybe Taftazani, for example. I'm not sure who he's referring to. He said, Al-Kasb is فسر القاضي الكسب بأن ذات الفعل واقعة بقدرة الله. The essence of the action, when we say essence, means remove moral side of it, goodness or badness. The essence of action happens with the power of Allah, and because this is close to us, it is called kasb. So Allah is doing something and it's close to us, it is kasb. But then he has a maybe maximal understanding of kasb compared to some people. Some people, when they talk about kasb, they make us really useless. But he says, كونه طاعة ومعصية صفتان واقعتان بقدرة العبد. So he wants to recognize some role for human beings. The essence of the action, as I said, regardless of the moral side of it, it's created by Allah, but it is in us. So this is kasb, and we can say this is my action. But to be obedience or disobedience are two attributes that happen with the power of the servant. Means we have the power to make it obedience or disobedience. So this, as I said, maybe it's a maximal understanding, interpretation of kasb, because it gets it very close to the idea of the Mu'tazilites. Although Mu'tazilites maybe don't emphasize that much on the essence being action of God because they believe in tafwiz, but they appreciate that we are the people who make good or bad out of this. وقال أبو إسحاق الإسفرايني من الأشاعرة. Abu Ishaq al-Isfaraini, one of the Ash'arites, say, إن الفعل واقع بمجموع القدرتين. He says, action happens, Allah has role, we also have role. These two powers must be put together, and the action is because of both powers working. Our Musannif, our author Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi, for sure he doesn't believe like Ash'arites in kasb. And among the Mu'tazilites, we said there are two views. One is that said it's badihi, the other says it is istidlali. He believes in being badihi. Al-Musannifu iltaja ila dharura hahuna. He said this is daruri, means you don't need to argue for it. If you really conceive it, because ikhtiyar is something that we always do, and we can experience it internally. You don't need to experience outside. You can refer to your own nafs. When you make a decision, see what happens. Is it only Allah doing, or really you can decide? فإنا نعلم بالضرورة الفرق بين حركة الحيوان اختياران وبين حركة الحجر الحابط. We understand very clearly as a badihi, as a self-evident, that there is a difference between an animal moving, because animals also have harakat iradi. You remember in mantiq, in philosophy, we said animals are حساس متحركة بالإرادة. جسم نامية حساس متحركة بالإرادة. So they have sensation and they have voluntary action. When a cat is moving, we know that this cat has a role. This cat is willing to walk. But when a stone is falling, is dropping from top of, for example, a mountain, a stone is dropping, you don't say this stone is making this movement by its will. Or even when, for example, a cat is dropping, not that is jumping, someone drops the cat and cat doesn't want to come, you understand the difference. So according to Khaja, this is badihi. ومنشأ الفرق هو اقتران القدرة في أحد الفعلين به وعدمه في الآخر. The difference between these two types of things, like a stone or movement of animal, is that in one of them power is there, and power is كون الفاعل بحيث إذا شاء فعل وإذا لم يشاء لم يفعل. When you want, you do. When you don't want, you don't do. But in the other one, when a stone is falling or dropping, there is no power, because a stone cannot stop. Remember, we said always, in order to say that this is what I can do, you should have both sides as options available. If you can do and also can decide not to do, we say you have power. But if you must do or must not do, you don't have power. So still we are in the middle of the discussion. Inshallah, we will continue this discussion next week. But I hope the idea is not very difficult. I just sum up. The whole question is how much role Allah has in our actions and how much we have in our actions. And you have to consider two things. Whatever you want to choose as your ground and as your position is not to compromise about Tawheed Af'ali, but also not to compromise about human role and responsibility, so that reward and punishment, all these become meaningful. Justice of Allah would not be questioned. So Tawheed Af'ali on the one hand, our responsibility and the issue of ikhtiyar and Allah's justice on the other hand. Ash'arites, they don't believe that much in justice as a real thing, as you said. You remember we said, they say whatever Allah does is just. Whatever He says to do is just. For them it's not a big thing. But for us it's a real thing. So we have to find a way to have Tawheed Af'ali and justice and wisdom of Allah and our free will all together. Our idea is that everything is an act of God, but when it comes to our voluntary actions, the way He does things is different from other things. When it comes to our voluntary actions, the way He does is that He does it through our will. In other words, Illat Tamme, the complete cause, is not only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also our free will is also part of this Illat Tamme. So we are really responsible for our actions. At the same time, we cannot say He has delegated to us everything and He has no role. He has role, but His role is defined by Himself in this way, that He gives me power, He gives me direction and guidance, but gives me chance to choose between this A or B or C or whatever. But the Ash'arites say Allah does the action A to Z. Most of them say A to Z. The only thing is that He does it in us. And they call this kasb. They think by playing with the words they can solve the problem. Say, لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. This is your action, you did it, but you didn't really do it. Either it becomes metaphoric, or we have to say just because it has happened in you, we recognize a written road for you, but you are not really responsible for what you are doing. Inshallah, we will continue this in the next session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If brothers, sisters, if you have any questions, inshallah we can discuss.
I'd like to give a chance for anybody to have, if they have a question, to either type it up or ask it directly.
Yes. You are welcome, Brother Imran. May Allah bless you.
My question, maybe for an hour later, is to understand the historic kind of more socio-political.
You are welcome, Sister Alia. May Allah bless you. I lost your voice, Brother Abu Hussein. Abu Hussein? Kasb is K-A-S-B. Kasb. K-A-S-B. You are welcome.
Not at our home, so that's why my brother disconnected.
Yes. Sorry, Brother Mubarak, I didn't hear.
We lost the internet connection at our home.
I see.
That's why my brother disconnected.
Okay. So inshallah, maybe we can discuss next week. Is there any other question from those who are present? Okay. التماس دعا, especially in this remaining part of months of Ramadan, التماس دعا, as we say, مخصوص. May Allah bless you, inshallah, and accept your amal.
إن شاء الله.
inshallah. في أمان الله. أحسنتم.